The words we use every single day can feel so normal. But if you look a little closer, they are packed with these amazing clues about who we are and where we come from. So today, based on our source material, we're going to take a journey through a single day to see what our words really say about our culture. Let's dive right in. Really think about that for a second. From the second your alarm goes off to the moment your head hits the pillow, your entire day is built on words. But what if those words were totally different? Well, let's take a walk through a day in the life and see just what language can teach us.
Okay, so our day kicks off where most do, in the bedroom. That very first moment, you open your eyes and the world starts to come into focus. We'll start right there, with the words for the stuff all around us.
So here we have all the universal comforts, right? The bed, the pillow for your head, a blanket or a quilt to keep you cozy, and the sheet underneath it all. But hang on, notice that word bolster? That's a long, skinny pillow. It's not something you see everywhere, but in some places it's an absolute staple. It's just a little hint that the way we get comfortable isn't exactly the same across the globe. All right, we're up, we're out of bed, and for most of us, the very next stop is the bathroom to get the day started. And it's right here, standing at the sink, where we find our very first linguistic puzzle. This is such a perfect example of how language carves out different identities. If you're in the UK, you turn on the tap. But if you're in the US, you're using a faucet. It's the exact same object doing the exact same thing. But the words we use for it show how two cultures, which started from the same place, have really grown into their own. Okay, from the bathroom, let's move into what many people call the heart of the home, the kitchen. This is where the magic happens, right? Meals get made, people gather, and it is an absolute goldmine for fascinating words. And yup, here we go again with that transatlantic split, this time over a simple chore. In the UK, you're taking out the rubbish and putting it in a dustbin. Head over to the US, and now it's garbage that's going into a trash can. It just goes to show that even the most boring, everyday tasks are seen through a completely different cultural lens. And speaking of chores, they really are the rhythm of daily life, aren't they? And language gives us the verbs to describe that rhythm. So let's actually feel that rhythm for a second with a few key actions. We start with the absolute basics, sweeping the floor. It's one of the most fundamental acts of cleaning, a simple word for a job that's understood in pretty much every culture on Earth. Next up, we dust the table. Another simple, powerful verb for keeping our space clear and feeling fresh. And to finish things off, we mop the floor. Sweep, dust, mop. See that? It's like a tiny little story about taking care of our home, all told in just 3 everyday words. Okay, the house is clean. Awesome. Now, let's shift from things and actions to people, because how we talk about our families, man, that says so much about how we see the world. This quote really gets to the core of what we're talking about today. The words we have for family aren't just labels. They're like a secret map to our social world. Let's look at a really cool example from our source material. So in English, we use this one catch-all term, sister-in-law, for 3 totally different relationships. But our source material points out that tons of other languages have a completely separate, unique word for each of these people. This tells you you're looking at a culture where knowing the difference between your husband's sister and your brother's wife is absolutely crucial. That level of detail in the language shapes your entire view of your extended family. It's fascinating. All right, let's step outside for a bit and head to the market. Food is something we all need, but the words we use for it? Oh, they are wonderfully diverse. And look who's back. That British versus American English divide, this time popping up in the produce aisle. What do you call that big purple vegetable? Is it an eggplant or is it an aubergine? Well, the answer completely depends on which side of the ocean you learned your words. So, once you have all your ingredients, you've got to do something with them, right? We don't just have potatoes, we chop them. Language gives us these incredible action words that let us turn raw stuff into a delicious meal. And the kitchen is just bursting with these kinds of verbs. You knead dough. You fry an egg. You roast meat. You bake bread. Each word is so specific, describing a totally different way of cooking. Now, as our day starts to wind down, we tend to turn inward. We think about our bodies, and for a lot of people, our spiritual lives. And guess what? Language has words for all of it. No matter what language you speak, some words are just unfortunately universal. Headache, cough, fever.
These are fundamental terms that let us name our pain and ask for help, no matter what culture we're in.
Physical stuff is one thing, but language also has to deal with the abstract, right? The spiritual beliefs that guide people's lives. How in the world does vocabulary reflect that?
Well, for many cultures around the world, the day isn't just marked by morning, noon, and night. It's structured by specific moments of prayer. Having distinct words for the dawn prayer, the noon prayer, and all the others, it shows a life where faith isn't separate from the daily routine. It is the routine. Language here is literally the framework for a life of devotion.
So, from a simple faucet to the very structure of daily prayer, we've seen how our everyday words are like these tiny windows into completely different ways of seeing the world. And that leaves us with one last thought. What about you? What words in your language are just packed with meaning? What do they reveal about your world?